I've been with the company now going on for 12 years. I started as a forklift driver, went up to the pulling orders, then delivering the orders, dropping them off over here, and then going into the office, inside sales, dispatcher. So also did assistant manager, and now doing outside sales role. I want to say that they weren't trying to get rid of me; they were just moving up that pyramid, right? So. And to be honest with you, a lot of this information is going to be from my experience of just working in the industry, because I remember looking at this and none of this made sense at the time, right? All these rib cuts, quarter saw cuts, plane slice, like I had no idea what any of that it was. But through the years of just working with the company, I've learned and figured out myself, because I'm more of a hands-on, need to see it, need to look at it. So John asked if I could come over and check out some grading, how they do the grading. It varies from lumber, from species to species. So you won't get the same grading from alder that you will from walnut, right? And we do carry all sorts of different grades. Walnut, we do carry, and I brought some boards over. Number one common, rustic, FAS, premium. Do any of you guys have any questions as far as with what I'm saying, like the difference between number one common, FAS, premium, any of that?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Anybody know what FAS stands for?
I used to.
FAS, it's a flat sawn. It's a flat sawn cut. So I'll go ahead and bring them out. We'll start with the walnut. Okay.
If we want to pull the table back, that way.
I think that'll do good. It's all 8 footers, so it should be good. Okay. We actually color code them so that we have a better understanding of it. So what you see here, so you see the back of the front. This is really sappy. So this is gonna be actually.
And let's dumb it down. Sap would be the white wood.
The white wood. Okay, yep. White wood. Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. Okay.
We want basics. We want to get.
Okay. So this right here, this is gonna be our number one common. And you can see just the color variation. The darker the wood, the closer we get to the heart. Okay.
The heart is the center of the tree.
The center of the tree. Yes, correct. So, and all these knots that you see here, does anybody know what these are? Yes. Oh. So branches, yeah, little baby saplings, when they're little tiny on the ground, they start spurting out. The bigger the tree gets, it starts cutting off the little limbs. So you're going to get these, the more you cut into the center of it, you're gonna get these knots, right? The rustic ones are going to be a lot, they're actually gonna go through at one point. So we try and avoid getting that for our customers, but at the same time, when a customer asks for good lumber, or just a better cut, right? So that's why we have all these different grades. So if a customer wants walnut, but they don't want to pay premium walnut, so then we go down to FAS. So it goes premium, FAS,
so
number one common. This is going to be our premium right here.
And this is FAS.
This is FAS. This is going to be.
That's got the blue on the end there. Oh, actually, it's got a little blue, a little red.
Yeah, that one has blue and red.
I can.
Blue on the end.
Oh, okay. So yeah. So this one actually, they gave you a pretty good number one comment, because actually, this is going to be number one comment. This one's actually going to be rustic then.
How does that grading work at the factory? Who's doing that? Is it a machine? Is it a person? Is it a what?
It's actually, it's all machine, and then it's double checked by men, right? Oh man, I'll send you a couple videos. When they cut the lumber, It goes through a conveyor belt system
With an eye on it that
Yeah, with
sees
an eye,
it.
scans it. It checks for all
Two
the
sides,
nuts.
one side.
It flips it both sides, so it goes through one conveyor belt and checks the front, and then they go on the back, and then whatever the machine says, they do check marks, and you'll see on some of the other ones. Then somebody else comes over. Literally, that's all their job. They stand right there as the boards are coming by in the conveyor belt, and they're just checking them. Like, yes, that's good. No, that's not. And that conveyor belt goes into another set of conveyor belts where there's lasers scanning everything, all the marking that they did, and it literally drops it onto whatever grading it is. So they pile it up, and then they drop the whole thing, and then they make the units, and they start taking them out. So it's really
Pretty
impressive.
automated. That's cool.
It's really impressive. So when people are asking why is the lumber prices so expensive, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot that goes into it. There's so many parties, there's so many hands in the process of lumber. You have somebody that's cutting the logs, just cutting down the tree. That's his whole job. He's cutting down trees, and somebody else comes in with a tractor, pulls it, hauls it up the mountain. That's his job right there. Does a big pile, and then a trucker comes in, picks it up, just the big old tree.
The whole tree.
The whole tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's his job. Then now they sell it to somebody else. Then a mill goes in, cuts it, right? They sell it to somebody else. They start cutting it, whether it's rift cut, plain slice, whatever, quarter sawn, whatever cut they have. They dry it out. That's their whole job right there. They dry it out. And for drying lumber, you're looking at anywhere between 4 to 6 months to dry lumber. So it just takes
A lot of warehouse, a lot of
warehouse, huge. Next time, if you want, I can bring a couple pictures of the mill trips that we've gone on.
Oh, way cool.
Okay, so that you guys can actually get an idea of what it is that actually takes. So you're looking at anywhere between 8 to 10 people getting their hands on all of this to finally get to us. So of course, everybody has a job, everybody pays bills, so that increases the price on everything, you know. But yeah, so that's walnut. Any questions on walnut? So the sapphire or white wood, it's going to be less expensive. When you get more to the hard, that's what's going to increase the price on it.
But I've heard in walnut that white is not technically a defect.
It's not. And that's where the grading changes. Walnut is the only one that changes the grading. It's not the same as alder. And it's just, yeah. I personally would prefer a little bit of coloration, left a little bit of white, a little bit of dark. Just that gives it the walnut look. When it's all dark, I mean, it's still walnut, but yeah, it's not a defect. It's a, so for it to be considered premium, you go into 90-90, which is premium. And then your other cuts are just, yeah, but it's not a defect. Yeah, they just
So when you
The grading here is premium.
premium.
And is that only with walnut?
That's
Does that
only
mean-
with, no, there's other ones. Premium cherry. They use premium cherry on it also because of the coloration, the white sappiness of it. But yeah, yeah.
So when we say 90-90, what is that saying?
90-90 is going to be 90% hard.
Okay.
90% hard, and then the other ones, of course, you are going to see a little bit, but nothing compared to,
Okay.
right? I hope that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on the walnut?
And that's just based off the good face.
Yes. Yes.
So for crown moldings and stuff like that, where we have a deep cove, it may not come out finished 90% white.
Well, as long as it's on the end. Notice that these ones still has knots, but they're further out, so they're gonna say that this whole thing you can still use. You can still have a good yield out of this piece of lumber, right? Where that one has a way bigger knot, so they're not going to.
But we
And
might,
it's that center of the board.
if we milled into this part, then we might have more than 90% of that finished trim
Mhm.
end up as white.
Yeah, it's literally walnut is one of the more, they bend the rules more on it, just because of the way the tree grows. Also.
So do our sales guys.
Oh yeah.
But the other way.
The other way. Yeah. So.
So when
They do a good job. They do a good
Technically,
job.
a black walnut tree that it comes from, or what is the actual tree called?
That's a great question. I just call it a walnut tree. That's a great question. I want to say it's American black walnut.
It is.
American black walnut. Yeah.
Does it produce nuts?
Yeah.
Yes.
I only know from being a logger. And that
Oh, you were a logger. Okay, so how was that? Did that make sense? What I was saying?
Yeah.
You
The only part you missed is the bucking up process, where you determine the length of your logs to the width
Okay.
or what you'll get out of your board feet.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's something that usually you would go through after you call everything up. You go through with the buyer
Yes.
to see what his needs are and what, like, the count he needs to fill or whatever.
Right. Yeah. When we were over there, it was, what was it? I asked how much a tree cost. We were actually looking at maple at the time, and a maple tree was, they literally sold it for $500. The whole thing is $500. And then after seeing all the hands that are involved in the process, you're like, oh well, he needs to get paid, he needs to get paid, he needs to get paid. And it's just escalated from there to just the prices going up. But yeah, thank you for me that. Anything else on this one? Any questions? Okay. Next one, yes.
Doesn't necessarily matter to anything we're talking about today, but where does walnut typically grow?
Back east.
Okay.
Yeah. So
In the Midwest.
in the Midwest, our lumber we try and get it from everything from back east, from Pennsylvania. We do have some out of Kentucky. What you want is lumbers. From what I've heard, is that you want a tree to go through the elements, hard elements, because if you get it out of a humid place and then you bring it out to a dry place, it's going to not be a good, right? So going through winter, going through summer, going through just, you want to go through all those spaces, all those elements, so that you have a good, strong board, good, right? So you can move it around and not have issues.
Cool.
Yeah? Okay. Next thing. Actually, I'll go ahead. Do you guys know how they, when I'm talking about rift cut, quarter sub cut, do you guys know any of that? Do you guys understand that?
Yeah, but yeah,
Okay.
dive through it for us. Yeah.
All right. So it's all automated. I'd love to go over this, but it's gonna take so much time. I'll leave it with you.
Okay. Appreciate
it
that.
just talks about the type. It would be so. We have so much inventory that it was hard for me to send everything to you guys, right? And I'd be here all day. So type of veneer matching. The veneers. I mean, literally, just picture this at a 4x8. If it's a 4x8 sheet that we're talking about, picture this just being slices of the veneer. They cut it out, right? You have your different book match. So plain slice. Plain slice, they're going to use the whole wood, like the whole log. That's the word I was looking for, log. When you have wide boards, this wide, you are going to get the widest when they're doing a plain slice flat cut. Okay, because they're going to go ahead and grab the log and they're gonna spin it. They bring it into a conveyor belt. Again, it starts the process in the conveyor belt. They take it to a man that's in it's like a huge video game room. And he's got joysticks and all sorts of little gadgets in his room, and he's cutting it. So he brings in the knife and he just rotates the log, and then just cuts it up, sends it down the conveyor belt. It goes around in circles, comes back again. That same log that he cut, and now he's going to start doing slices of them, right? So FAS, you are going to get the widest boards. You can get anywhere between 6 to maybe sometimes even 12-inch wide boards when it's flat cut. Okay, and then you're gonna have, and we'll go over those book match here in a little bit. Rotary cut. Rotary cut, you're not going to see any cathedrals. There's not a lot of process in it, so that's our cheapest veneer that we have. What they do is they just grab the log, they cut it to the size they need it to. So they square it. I guess you could, if that makes sense, they square the log out, they bring the knife, and they literally just rotate that log, and the knife just comes in and it starts taking it out. As if I was to grab a piece of, or a roll of paper, or carpet or whatever, and just roll it. They literally just skin the log. And that is the cheapest veneer cut, because there's not a lot of process to it, right? Where you're not having to then look at the boards, matching it so that it has the same coloration, and it's Yeah, it looks way better. So this way is the cheapest way that we can go.
Our maple sheets, the 1/4-inch maple sheets, that's what's on those. The Shasta maple is a rotary cut as well.
Yep. Most of your maples are going to have, there are going to be rotary cuts, maples, and birch. We do have the option of having, and that is what it's going to look like. I always tell people, if you're going to get a rotary picture, a geographical map of Utah, the mountains, you just see layers, I guess you could say. So that's what it looks like, rotary, right? There's no real, I mean, there's work involved in it, but not a lot of, there's no process to it, a whole lot of process. Quarter slice, I mean, the name says it, quarters, they do 4 quarters, and then they just trim them, they cut them, and that's where you're going to get thinner boards. You're going to get 2 big boards out of the quarter because they do the main one in the center.
You're drawing it there, shows it pretty good, right?
Perfect, yeah. And you guys can all take a look. So the center boards, so you picture that whole log. Out of that whole log, you're going to get 8 boards that are just the widest board off that log. And then as they go out, it's going to be thinner or not as wide, right? Does that make sense? And by cutting it, by doing a 1/4 sun cut, you're going to get, I call them, they're called
medullary rays.
Yes.
Medullary rays.
Yes, that one.
However you say that.
However you say that. I just call them
Flake.
flakes, flaking, tiger stripes, whatever. People have different names for them, but and you can see there when you actually cut it, and that's the reason why I brought this picture. You can actually see the effect of it.
It's the growth ring.
Yes, the
right?
growth ring is what it is. So when they cut it, it just looks like it got stretched out, but it's just the growth ring that is just being exposed. And that picture actually illustrates it perfectly. And we'll see in those boards that I sent over to you guys. 1/4 sawn. And then you have your
Mostly we see a 1/4 sawn and white oaks.
White oak, walnuts. You also see it on walnuts, and those are the ones that we carry.
Okay.
For the most part, those are the ones that are on
Okay.
demand.
A mahogany occasionally comes that way as well, right?
1/4 sawn, mahogany, and sapele, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Rift cut, those are the ones that are going to be the thinnest boards that you can get out of it, because again, they're also doing it in a 1/4 in a sense, but they're only trimming, they're only doing it like in a plain slice cut, but with only a 1/4 of the log. So when people come and say, they ask us for wide rift
brown.
it's
don't forget
yeah.
brown, no white.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the rift cut. And then one of the other things that I tell people is with Intermountain, I've been around with Intermountain for a long time that I can actually say that we focus so much on quality, that this is a perfect example that I have for you guys when it comes to quality. So the Rift White Oak, when one of my customers calls me and tells me that our competitors have a cheaper Rift White Oak, I always ask, how is that possible, right? And the difference of it is that we have an AV Rift White Oak where it's combed from top to bottom. So the Rift literally is combed from the very top to the very bottom. There's so much work that goes into it that people are actually putting in the perfect slices, because this plate slice Rift, and they're making it so that the Rift goes from the very top to the very bottom. There's an easier, cheaper way to go about that, and they just grab the cut, and then all they do is a book match look to it. So you're gonna have cathedrals, you're gonna have the grain pattern start at the top, come down, and meet back in the middle, and then sometimes they come back down. So you're not going to have a combed Rift White Oak from the very top to the very bottom. You're gonna have this diamond shaped look to the Rift. So, and at that point, it's not really straight grain vertical. It's more of a wavy, weird looking thing. I've seen it, it looks weird to me. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any questions on?
Is there any stability difference in the different types of cuts?
What do you mean by stability?
Like, does the wood dry better and become more stable, less likely to twist? Same white oak tree or a same walnut tree. If they cut it one versus another, does it?
From my understanding, it's the same amount of time that it takes to dry it.
Okay.
Yes, but I can actually double check and.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just
Okay.
curious. Any other curiosities or questions you guys have?
When doing veneers, it seems like you do a lot of rotary cut or book match. Can you do slip match and other things?
We do. We have the option to do slip. So the veneers on white oak, it's slip match. So we match it. So we do match them. So yeah, slip match and book match is the most common one. Actually, book match is 75 to 80%. Slip match is only 5%. Just because it takes. It's more time consuming to build that one veneer because they're literally looking for the perfect, right? And then plank and random is 15 to 20% that they do. So
You know, with walnut and some of the white oaks, it looks better when you do the plank match because it matches the hardwoods better.
yeah. We have access to it, but we don't. Stock
It's not
it.
a stocking program.
Yeah, it's more expensive for some weird reason. It's more expensive to do plank match, and yeah. I agree. It does look like actual boards, just different, but it's all over the place. You have really dark, then you have white, and yeah. So, but yeah, we do have access to it. We just don't stock it. But if you do need it, it's there. Okay. Anything else on walnut or anything else that we've gone through here? No. Okay. We can probably grab alder now. Let's say if you guys were to grade it, what would you guys grade it? How would you guys I guess, realistically, from ugliest to nicest looking board?
They're probably superior.
Yep.
This is probably naughty. And then this is probably a naughty but close. No, I don't know what grading system you guys have.
Yeah. So superior, and they have markings. And I'll be honest with you guys, that's one thing that every mill uses different markings, so it's hard. And especially right now, we're trying to outsource quantities, and so we're not back ordering stuff. So we have different options right now. We ran out of Northwest, so now we're having to push Cascade. Still good, but I think people are just used to.
So the terminology on this is different than walnut.
Yes, 100%.
Like 90-90 is like saying superior.
Superior, yes. And they're gonna go off of, so this one right here is actually, so this is gonna be hay strip. So it's gonna be very thin, knots all over the place. And the way grading goes is how much percentage of the board can you actually use out of this. Like, well, that has a knot. Well, yeah, but you still have a pretty good clean board all the way over there, and that's the back. So this is the front, right? Where right here, this whole board is good, and you can use it for whatever it is that you need to use it for. This is going to be our. Is that a circle over there? Yeah. Okay. And that's a little. Okay, so K strip superior. This is definitely our premium. So rustic, and this is gonna be superior one face. Sorry, give me 1 second. This is superior one face. So superior one face, you still got superior. So when somebody wants to save money and they don't want to pay X amount for superior both sides, and it's only gonna show one side of it, we recommend superior one face, where you have. I mean, again, still, this is a pretty good looking board, but this is the face of it, right? And this one is our number one common. So, yeah, grading, as far as grading goes on alder, that is the reason why they have so many more. Actually, I'm missing two more. It's just the yield that you get out of alder is really good. There's so many things that you can do with it as far as grading goes. So
The K-strip is typically brought in for doorstock, molding, stuff that you're just targeting the narrow runs.
Stuff. Yes, you will not get 6-inch quartz on K-strip. It's going to be very thin stuff.
And there's not sapwood classifications with alder?
Not with alder, no. It's actually pretty interesting. When I found out about alder is that this is not alder's natural color. When they dry it, when they cut it, it's actually very white, like maple almost. Very, very white. But just like an apple, when you bite into it and you just let it sit in there, it'll go brown. So that's what this effect does to alder.
It's like pine yellow.
Pine, yeah.
Yellow, it's white when you cut it, but it yellows over.
It yellows
time.
over. So this is the only one that I know of that does that.
And do they just harvest alder to get to the other trees, or do they truly go harvest alder specifically?
That was a great question. When we went over back in Pennsylvania to look at them logging, whatever was in season, they did it in seasons. And I don't know if she can confirm that with me. So they cut seasons. So even though they have a really nice walnut tree right there for them to cut, they'll pass it and they go straight to the alder. Can you confirm that? Do you remember?
Or
Cutting it down, like, is it a seasonal thing or when we're
it kind of depends on demand.
on demand?
Where we work as loggers for timber improvement, and
Okay.
so like a walnut or a white oak that still could have time to grow. If there was what you would call crab trees around it, we would cut around it to give it more space and energy.
Yeah. So they do. That's actually right. So they were cutting some of the trees that were blocking the sun or whatever. They would
Yeah,
cut those
yeah.
around them. They would so that they
It's
focus
called
on that.
relief cutting.
But when we went, white oak was and has been in such high demand. They were cutting maple, and we're like, well, why are you cutting? There's so much white oak. We need white oak right now. But even if we need it now, those trees, when they cut them, they won't be ready for another 6 months, regardless. So they just do it in seasons. So that season that we went last year, it was maple. You know, they were just focused on maple. They were passing all these other trees, and it was just maple.
So if there's a shortage, we're not getting any help for 6 months.
I don't feel like there is.
I think the rules like in Minnesota, Wisconsin area are a little bit different. Like,
It might be.
yeah, because we would go through, it wasn't necessarily seasonal, and we mostly only log in the dead of winter and the dead of summer, and not in between.
When also we found out that the acres, the land, was owned by someone.
Yep.
So that person would also dictate
Yeah, the
what
private
they,
land
yeah.
owners.
So I don't want you cutting this section for whatever reason. So they have to respect that because it's their land.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, a lot of the landowners will
They're-
cut
they're all-
specifications, what'll make more money,
Yep.
or improve their land.
Priorities.
Yeah.
What the purpose is of having it seasonal? Is it just easier for them to manage? Because
It might be just conveniency for them at that point. Like it's just convenient for us to focus on one thing, and it's a good question. It's just a matter of the person, right? And there's so many. There's so many. Whether it's contractors or whoever. So if somebody's not cutting white oak, then they'll go to somebody else that is. So there's-
I mean, the little bit I've learned about white oak is it grows really just in the Ohio River Valley for the most part,
yes.
and so you have a lot of farm plots. So I imagine that some of that's dictated based on the farmer's planting season. They're growing when they're harvesting. So if you're interrupting their work, I would imagine that plays into it a little bit too.
Yeah.
That's their bread and butter. The oak trees they're selling is something off the top that they're able to harvest.
Yes, that's true. One of the things that I actually learned is that they have all these fancy machineries, but they are also limited. They don't want to do that. They don't want to just come in with big old bulldozers or whatever and these fancy machines that just grab the whole tree and cuts it off and just debarks it right on the spot. Because when you're doing all that, you're killing all these little saplings, little trees, and then there goes your
Future, yeah.
right?
Yeah, this big thing for us logging in Minnesota was we would come back through in the spring, like if we had clear cut a certain area or taken a certain species out, and we would go do replant of walnut, white oak, spruce, kind of whatever was best for the tree, and we always had to go back in the spring
Yeah.
and replant.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool to see it. And if that's ever an opportunity, I definitely open that up for you. If you
Cool.
wanna come in.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to a mill trip on
I
that?
haven't. No.
Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, it's super nice. Just the amount of work that goes into it, it's just ridiculous. So, okay. Any questions? Sorry, I feel like I'm all over the place just because I don't know.
No,
exactly what it
this is
that you're
good.
supposed
Yeah,
to do.
we're just soaking it up, so
Awesome.
you're good.
Let's do maple now. There should only be.
I think there were 2
maple.
boards. Yep.
Yeah, 2 boards.
And this is a soft maple.
Soft maple, correct. Very simple, huh? Anybody want to tell me what is what? They actually made it hard on me here.
FAS #1 common.
So yeah, so we do have #1 coming, but this is going to be our select and better, sap and better, and this is our brown maple. Everybody calls it different. So, I mean, you can tell with maple and poplar are going to be your widest boards. Yeah. So, very simple. I mean, it's self-explanatory. You can actually see, in this case, the sap there, dead center. So, technically, you can paint both. This is paint gray maple, but the only reason why they call it paint gray maple in our store, I guess you could say, our customers, the color, and it's just you paint it. But you can paint this one as well, and it's actually better. Right now, crazy enough, the brown maple is more expensive than the soft maple, than the white maple. Yes. This one, I believe, last time I checked,
Supply and demand.
3 weeks ago, and that's all it was. So it goes through phases to where this got to $5 a board foot for brown maple. So what we did is we started bringing in cherry, paint grade cherry, which is sappy
I was
cherry.
going to say, a lot of people are painting cherry right now
because of this.
this price.
So we brought in sappy cherries, but it's paint grade cherry, so now they're painting cherry for it. It's just crazy days. But yeah, so that's white maple and brown maple.
One question I've got: we tend to occasionally see figuring in the maple.
Okay.
What causes the figuring?
What do you mean by figuring?
Like tiger striping, is it the same medullary?
Yes, it's people call it bird's eye. People call it wormy maple, bird's eye maple.
Oh, Mikey's got a board here that.
Some curl through, but doesn't really
Yeah,
stand
see how it like has that.
Oh yeah, are you talking about this right here?
Yeah.
So that
I would actually say that's actually somewhat of a defect, actually.
well, so when they sand that, it doesn't truly sand out.
Right.
No paint.
It'll
show.
yeah.
You'll see all those ripples.
So it's like it's hard soft, or something. There's something in the, because when you're sanding along on this alder, that's the hardest spot right there where that knot is.
Yes.
So I don't know what causes that and why we see it occasionally. And
I'll be honest with you. Sometimes with this, it might actually be it is definitely a defect. It's not right. If you have stuff like this, send it back. Call me. We'll pick it up.
your units haven't had it, or have had less of it.
There you go.
We save a certain percentage of it. We use it up on our drawer stock that we.
Okay.
It doesn't quite matter as much.
To be honest with you, it's a defect. It's a defect. You guys should not have this. I mean, you can actually feel it. It's not even a visual thing where the cortisone whatever, you see it, but you don't feel it. So I would call it a defect for sure. And going back to that, that's one thing that I tell my customers. It's like if we get units like this, we send it back. We want a credit. And so when we charge maybe a little bit more for it, there's the reason why.
Yeah.
People say, hey, why is your white maple so much more expensive? Well, you can pay more somebody else to sand it out and to have more time, and there goes the money that you're saving for a cheaper maple.
Or in the dumpster. Or
in the dumpster.
So would you say send the whole unit back? Just send those boards back?
I would just send the boards because it's not all going to be like that.
Something like less than 10%.
Yes. So I'm gonna go with just a defect. This is whether it was a dull blade or something. Because yeah, you can definitely.
It honestly it doesn't even mill out. Like you can't. Yeah, you can't get rid of it.
Sometimes running it through the planer, through the molder, it'll tear it out. And so it looks to me like the grain is actually curving up and down in that little
Could be it's still, regardless it's a defect, I would imagine that it was probably just something also that they try to dry out quicker. So they try and dry it out quicker, and yeah, it's definitely a defect for sure. There's a name for it, but I just can't think of it. And now, once I find out, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Any questions on the maple?
Take that back over.
Oh, yeah. Get that away from me. Okay, let's do the cherry.
Tyler's hands are full over there.
Priorities. They're good, right? Have you guys had them?
Yeah, the Banbury Cross. Oh yeah, those are good stuff. Yeah, those are. They must be. They're close to Intermountain because you guys are the only ones that bring Banbury in.
They are downtown.
Woo! That is a big, beautiful board. Well, nice and wide.
So when we place our orders, we do definitely, going back to quality, we do ask for the better stuff. Rustic, Select and Better, Premium Cherry. So we asked that somebody else use Premium Cherry's the other one that's premium.
Can I get a whole unit with this white stuff?
Could you sell a whole unit of white stuff right now? It's probably coming back, but give it a minute.
To be honest with you, we have a good selection, and we've been focusing more. Like I had a conversation with John, that we are demanding the mills to just send us better stuff, whiter stuff, something that, so what's going to set us apart from the competition is quality, plain and simple. You buy lumber you have so many other options to buy lumber, so we need to find something that's going to set us aside from the competition or push us forward. So you are going to have a wider board there, and then you can actually see the coloration on the white, the sap, how it's more hard, a little bit less hard with a little bit of sap, and then the whole thing is pretty white, pretty sappy. And you're gonna see those knots that go all the way through pretty much on it. And again, half of the board is gonna be Select and Better, but the face is gonna be pretty perfect. Where the premium, you're literally gonna have a perfect board, right? Maybe a little, but yeah, that's our cherry right there. Any questions on the cherry?
What'd you call it? The Seconds and Better, or the
Select and Better?
Select and Better. Is that number one common, or is number one common even below that?
So we don't have number one common.
Okay.
These are the ones that we do stock, so it's gonna be your Rustic, Select and Better, and Premium. If you guys ever need, say for example, you need 200 board feet or maybe 150, I would suggest get 200. If you feel that if you can get away with SAS, with Select and Better. If you need 150, I would suggest order 200. That way you can actually, I'm okay with this. I already got the permission from Mero, our regional sales director, where you can actually find some pretty good boards from Select and Better, so you don't have to pay the premium price. You will find a little bit of you can get a good yield out of this.
Yeah, that's a beautiful door panel. Right. If you cut that up, and yeah.
But if you must use the whole board, then go premium. But again, if you feel that you can get away, and you can actually see a little bit of sap here on the side, on the very top. But yeah, we're very lenient when it comes to our customers. That you know what, if you feel that you can make it happen with this, go ahead and grab this, and then send back the other 50. And we'll definitely take care of you guys that way. But yeah, I mean, again, going back with the grading, it's just a matter of sap and knots. That's all it is. Sap and knots, the heart, the color, and that's gonna determine the grading on any lumber, right? Any questions?
kind of tree does cherry come from? Is it really a cherry tree?
It is a cherry tree, but it's not the one that you eat. It's not a cherry tree. They just give cherries, some form of cherry.
Well, they all seem so short, but maybe the orchards keep them short. They don't got to climb so high.
Yeah, yeah, true. It looks very similar to it. Very similar, but it's not your typical. I used to think it was cherry, like actual cherry trees.
I've never seen a cherry tree that wide and big.
Yeah,
so-
yeah.
You won't.
Where the hell's cherry tree?
Yeah, I don't. That's a good question. To be honest with you, when I first started working here, I did my first delivery when I was driving. Did my first delivery. The guy came up to me. He's like, "Is that my cherry right there?" I was like, "Sure, yeah, looks like it." He could be pointing at walnut for all I know. But
You've come a long way.
I think so. They still keep me around.
The rift, you know, when the driver comes by with the rift on it and a unit of alder that we've ordered the alder, we'll take the that's
the alder.
Sure, take it. Yeah. So let's do the oak. An oak is oak, white oak, red oak.
We work in an industry, the School of Hard Knocks. None of us really know. We just that's what. I think that's right.
Where does it go? So this is gonna be our riff. Or is it?
Oak's always a little fun because it you'll get a little. Some of the boards will give you some quartered, even though they're a rift, or even a plain. And
yes. So that's gonna be our riff, and we're actually running short on riff. So I'm pretty sure they just send us
what they could.
And I told them do not back order. I need these boards just for examples. So send them. So unfortunately, this is a bad example. I mean, it is considered riff, top to bottom. You can see it. This is gonna be our
Plain slice.
plain slice. And then here's if you actually see, you can actually
the
see.
middle areas,
Yep. The flecking on it. You can actually see. I wish I would have picked the board.
There's a little bit here.
Is there a little bit? This is actually.
Well, and there's always a variance in the board anyway, and how much figuring it has.
Yeah, I mean, from this picture, and I mean, if we're gonna compare it to the ring, you're probably gonna get the outside. This is probably an outside of it, towards the end of the log, because you're not seeing it as much. You won't see the flecking as hard. But yeah, you can see it there. Yeah, with oak, you have just your cuts, your different cuts, and then you have your rustic. And you are going to see more distress, more color variation on it, and it's not gonna be uniform. It's just gonna be all over the place.
So kind of a select and then a rustic, or the
yes,
okay.
2 options. And then with the oak, you're just gonna have different cuts: rib, cortisone, plain slice, or FAS, and then you have one or the other, which is rustic or select, clear, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's
on a select and the oak. What percentage of the board should be considered usable? And is that for color? Is that just for knots?
Color.
Okay.
You're gonna look at colors. There's not going to be a lot of knots on the oak. You will not see knots like you will on alder.
Alder, yeah, or cherry.
Or cherry. Yep. It's just gonna be color variation.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, there's some good figuring.
Yep. And you can actually see it. Those are the rings. So I would assume this is more or less the outside of the log, and that's the reason why we don't see it that much. But once you get down in the center, you are going to see thicker, wider ones even of those fleckings on it. That's a perfect example right there. That one right there.
Yeah, you see a lot of old furniture. It's made out of
Yes.
and
everything is just coming back for some weird reason. We just cannot get enough of it. And at this point now we're bringing in.
we need to go back to the prohibition.
Yes.
So the white oak comes to our industry and not to the whiskey industry.
You know what? There's more money in that, I guess. They're saving it for the whiskey barrels.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Better be.
Forget your kitchen, my liquor. But, yeah, so that's that one. So
What was that about priorities?
any other questions on any other lumber that you guys can think of? I like I said, I went back to your history, and this was the
Yep,
main
that's-
thing
that's-
that you used.
Yeah, the chair, I think we've had one job this last 6-8 months.
Okay.
But yeah, the rest of it, we see it pretty regularly.
Okay.
Any others that you guys, any questions? Any?
Out of curiosity,
Poplar? We have two options. It's going to be your FAS poplar and your number one common. And number one common is going to be just more of a green look to it, where the FA is going to be more of a plain white green, a small green tint to it, a huge green. Very white boards, very clean, very, very nice. The longer you get, the more likely that you will have a board that's a little bit crooked or...
Poplar grows really fast,
Yes.
tends to have more stress.
Yes.
What about exterior woods?
Exterior woods.
Ipe and
You have
teak, Yakumoto.
African mahogany, sakuni, teak, cedar, red cedar. Red cedar. Yeah. And right now we stock African mahogany and sapphire. Those are the ones. And it's quarter. Those are actually quarter soft.
Yeah, Alan, can you sell a mahogany job? It's been a little while since we've had any mahogany go through. I like
It's
mahogany.
dropped prices big time.
Has it?
Oh yeah. It used to be like $10 a board, but now it's like
Huh.
$5-ish.
I remember it's probably been about 10 years ago. My brother had their passage door shop had a big commercial project that it was a historical building that they were either building a new building and replicating or refurbishing the original, and so they built all these mahogany doors that they were painting them.
Painted them?
Fire.
The mahogany?
Painted them.
Fire resistant.
Yes. It was like, what the heck is going on here? Oh, maybe that's what it is. Fire resistance? I didn't know that. That's interesting.
For fire code.
But yeah, I was like, that's crazy to
Yeah.
paint mahogany.
No, it's beautiful. Mahogany is
Yeah.
really beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, questions, concerns?
Emotional outburst.
Pats on the back.
No, we